didn't recognize me. And I go, hi, Nick, Michael Dorn. And he goes, I didn't know you were black. Didn't know. I just, you know, and I forgot that was one of my favorite stories. Because I walked in and then he goes, yeah, well, who's this guy? You know?
Thank you
Worf.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Michael. My question is about the martial art training that you may have done, you know, to prepare for your action scenes, and if anything kind of influenced your fighting style as Worf. You know, I guess the question I want to know most is, you trained and you fought with Ballet. I was wondering if any real-world martial arts influenced that style or how you approach those scenes.
Yeah, well, it's a long story, but at the very beginning, if you notice the first year or 2 years of the show, Worf was, you know, kind of out of control. And I asked Gene, I said, look, you know, I really want to change that because it just doesn't feel, you know, that this is a guy that has this discipline and blah, blah, blah. And he says, okay, you know, whatever you want to do. Which was great, Gene was great about that. And so I got together with Dan Curry, who's the special effects supervisor, and he's a martial arts master. And so we got together and we started creating this Klingon martial arts. And we designed the Bat'leth, and we also designed that other weapon called a Mek'leth from scratch. And we sat down and we tried to figure out what would be the most dangerous but defensive weapon that you can have, you know. And so that's what we came up with. And so whenever there'd be an episode where I needed to do martial arts, Dan would come down and we'd go through a bunch of different moves that he knew, and then I'd add what a Klingon would do, and then we'd get with the stunt coordinator, and then he would incorporate all of that into his work. And that's how it turned out. Cool. Thank you. Hi.
Hi. In Space Nine, you travel back to Trouble with Tribbles episode. And when
I hated that.
when they asked Worf about the original Klingons and the
Yeah.
did you see the Enterprise episode where they explain how that happened?
No, I didn't.
No?
What did they say?
It was part of an experiment that they did. I think it was like a super soldier type of thing that backfired, so then that was the side effect. So it was shameful, which is why Worf said they do not speak.
You know, I gotta tell you, sometimes they just, I don't know. I mean, I thought that they went down with the whole thing, you know. I mean, it's an experiment. I mean, come on. I mean, it's, you know, it could have been something else. You know, it could have been, I think they, you know, their writers, they could have thought about something maybe a little better. Like maybe Klingons they're all different kinds of Klingons. And maybe those Klingons
like warbirds.
I love to fly warbirds.
No, not probably warbirds, like real retired military planes, right?
Oh, yes.
So how you got into that and which one's your favorite?
In the active military, I've been in a bunch. I wasn't active military, but I was like a Air Force Navy mascot for about 4 years. And my favorite was the F-16. I flew in, I had about 15 hours in the F-16. Actually flying, it was amazing. That was great. But my favorite one is the F-86, which I owned for about 4 years, and I flew that around, which was fantastic. Thank you. Hello.
Hi, my name is Tatiana. I don't know how to but my teacher, Miss Miller, she is the biggest Star Trek fan. And although I haven't gotten into it yet, I will. But the episode that she showed me was Trouble with Tribbles. And yes, I couldn't handle it. But all of them around.
Why couldn't you handle it?
I just didn't like seeing them all around. I was like, they're just everywhere. And I was like, in my mind, it was like, oh my goodness. And she was a math teacher, so she used that to make us learn how to do all the math and how many had to get on there by the time that, you know. So, but I was hoping I could get if you could do a shout out to Miss Miller for me. I took a video and show her in the camera. I go back to school. Just say hello, Miss Miller. Supercon. Yeah. I
Hello, Miss Miller. Hello, Miss Miller. I hate that episode. Hi, Michael. Everybody's been asking about your favorite episodes. I wanted to know your favorite episode of South Park.
You know, I mean, I love Fun with Theo, of course, but God, that's really, really hard. Probably the Succubus. You know, that was freaking hilarious. But there's so many. Let's see, Succubus was one that I watch all the time. I have that taped. But I think that was my favorite. That was my favorite. But I think they're great. I think they're fantastic. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Martin. I actually had a question for you. I'm not sure if you've been asked this before, but I was wondering, throughout Next Generation, we saw the main crew get together and play poker, and even Captain Picard joined at the very end. So I'm wondering if during your off time, you guys ever get together and do similar activities together, play boards or whatever.
You know, did we get together? Yeah, that was a bone of contention for a lot of the people that were married with kids and stuff like that, or just married, because we hung out. We worked 12 and 15 hours a day, and then we went out after that. So it was crazy for a while, until they realized that that they actually had families. We just loved hanging out with each other. So, but we would have parties. People would have little get-togethers. Marina had a couple parties. We had, up until probably 5 years ago, we always had a Christmas party from the very beginning. And we would always, somebody would have it at somebody's house. I had it for a while. Marina had it for a while. Jonathan or Brent had one. So we would always do that. As time has gone on, the Christmas parties have gone away, but if you go to a party where we are, you can find us off in a corner by ourselves, So there, but it wasn't anything particular we did. We just would have parties and go out drinking and go have great meals together.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
You mentioned the F-86. Are you familiar with the Big Alley during the Korean War?
Of course I am.
I was wondering if you ever considered the concept of creating a movie based on Big Alley with the F-86 versus the MiG-15.
Oh man, would that be something?
That would be awesome.
That would be, because there are probably 7 or 8 F-86s flying, and there are a huge amount of MiGs flying. So you could do it, and you know what? I've never thought about it, but I'm going to think about it, because it is a historical thing. I think it would be great. There's one thing that is in our way, which is, if you look at the business, if you look at the movies that are out right now, those type of movies aren't really in vogue. If it's zombies, or Dracula, or dark Superman, or destroying cities, I mean, those are the kind of things that people kind of gravitate toward, but it's a very good idea. And if it comes to fruition, I'm not giving you a dime. No, seriously, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
I had this concept of like a World War II pilot that was brought back into service.
Sure. Well, you know, there's it's very funny. They never really captured that stuff. They haven't done it in a very long time. The last time was, I think, Top Gun was the last time there was actually an aviation kind of movie where, you know, people loved it and it was very successful and it had the right blend of everything. But yeah, I know all the movies. I mean, there was a couple of movies, The Hunters and these other movies that dealt with that. But I think that would be a great idea. Well, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
take care. Thank
You
you.
bet. Hey. Hi.
What of the character Worf was based on Michael Dorn?
What part of the character Worf was based on?
Personality traits, interests. Like I'm under the impression that Captain Picard was in the Shakespeare because Patrick Stewart was a Shakespearean actor. Is there anything similar going on with the character of Worf?
No, you know, Michael Dorn didn't like to slice up people. In fact, you know, sometimes, I always used to say, you know, how can they get Worf from Michael Dorn? Because I just, but no, there really wasn't anything that I relied on in terms of who I am and who Worf is. You know, they didn't say, oh, Michael Dorn's this, so let's make Worf. Not at all. In fact, the whole issue of how the character became who he was basically I was hired after everybody else, and so the actors that you saw, the core actors, didn't know me. Even when I started working, they just said, "Okay, Michael, stand over there," you know, and that was it. So I wasn't part of the group. But I came on the set before I started working. I was watching them, you know, out of makeup and out of character, and I was watching them. They were all really great, wonderful, and fun, and out there. And, you know, come on, we're all comrades, and let's go out into space and be, you know, wonderful together. And that was my thing. I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be the opposite. And so I didn't become, but that was how I played the character, is mad about everything. You know, if you ask him to hand them a tablet, he's like pissed about that. Mr. Worf, may I have that pad? Yes, sir. You know, and that's what and the writers took off from there. I didn't really have to really go up there and say, right there, right there. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, first of all, when did you go topless?
When did I go topless? Probably long time ago. Maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, so you still weren't here. Also, what was it like doing Captain Simeon with his
Oh, they were great. They were good. The Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys is this wild show. That was really funny. But the actors who were doing the voices were all these incredibly talented actors. The problem that I always see is that the actors that you see are really talented doing the voices, but off camera and when the microphone is off, that's when they become very funny because they can do all these different voices of different people, famous people, and they would go on, you know, as these people, and it was a blast. Thank you. Yeah, no. Hello.
Hi, huge fan.
Yeah, speak into the mic.
My question is, were there any rivalries between the other series like Voyager, Next Generation, against like
Were there any rivalries?
shows, like
have like dance-offs or something like that.
Data could do the robot.
Yeah. I gotta tell you something, okay, no, there weren't any rivalry, but it's funny, the Jets and the Sharks, I was talking about, this was maybe 10 years ago, but when I was old enough to go West Side Story, and we were, I don't know, 8, 6, 7, 8, something like that, and these guys were bad. I mean, they were badass. When you're a Jet, all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day, you know, and we're like going, wow, and we would leave the theater as Jets and Sharks, and we'd have rumbles with, you know, our ice cream sticks that we cut off. When you're a Jet, Cut to 30 years later, 40 years later, and I see it's going to be coming on, and I go, oh, I got to watch this. And I watch it, and they're not these, they're like, when you're a Jet, all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day. Like, what happened? What happened to these guys? They were just so much. You know? But anyway, that's just something I thought about. Thank you. But no, there weren't any rivalries. We didn't, Deep Space was the closest to a rivalry because they started 2 years before we ended. And they were right across the stage from us. But there was not any rivalry in terms of between them.
This question is, Robert Picard mentioned that you guys were much more jokey and had
Yes.
breaks. What was the funniest thing that happened on stage?
Well, I told the story about Patrick. Did you hear that one? You didn't? Okay. That to me is pretty hilarious. There was one moment that was special because Brent never really cracks up. I mean, he may laugh a little bit, but he doesn't really crack up until the cameras are off. Then we go crazy. But there was a show where he actually, I think I was going through this different realities. And one of the realities I screwed up and Jordy got injured, actually got killed. And we walk into the medical area, and there's Nurse Ogawa, and we see Jordy naked laying on a slab. I mean, he's dead. I mean, obviously, he's you know. And Brent had the line, Dr. Ogawa, may I speak to Jordy? And he couldn't get it out. Because we just, you know, it's like we were making up lines, you know, for Nurse Ogawa, like, well, yes, you could talk to him, but it'll be a little one-sided. Yes, you can talk to him, but he may not answer you, right? You know, or, you know, and so, and it was probably 30 minutes of just laughing, just uncontrolled laughter. And those were moments, you know, where there's also Patrick. When Patrick was directing, when he was an actor on the show, he would complain about smoke on the set. Always when we go, there's smoke, and he's like, this is just terrible smoke on the set. There's no reason for it. And we were doing the cowboy episode with my son, and we were in the saloon, and Patrick was screaming for more smoke. More smoke, you know? And the poor lady that was standing behind the bar trying to bar me, it looked like she was on fire. Smoke was billowing out. Yeah, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, unfortunately, that's going to be our last question. Yeah, we went a bit over time, but good news is you have a booth somewhere, and you guys can all go and hang out with him, keep him company. Thank you guys so much. Have a good